Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the podcast. Now, today, in true Watson's Daily style, we're going to try not to, or we're going to have to, we're going to try to minimise mentions of Trump and Musk. Although, actually, yeah, I mean that's what we thought. That's what we thought. But actually, my subject is a bit more Musk. But anyway,
I was going to say we can commit to the Trump one. I'm not sure you can commit. To
yeah. So we were, 1 out of 2 is not too bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, what story did you pick out for today's Watson's Daily?
Yeah, well, I'm steering well clear of both. I picked a story from the FT about Pernod Ricard. So,
Nice.
Pernod Ricard, big drinks manufacturer, and they are going to restructure their business to attempt to cut costs after they've seen kind of their market kind of share slump, and they're really quite struggling in terms of the global market for alcohol at the moment.
Yeah.
And that kind of continues a pattern we've been seeing recently. Actually, we've seen Diageo, another big manufacturer or umbrella company that owns lots of manufacturers, would be a way of putting that, struggling. We've seen stories about the fact that young people now are more happy to go out and do potentially embarrassing activities without the need for alcohol, and the fact that people that kind of range between my age and your age, that sort of age group, kind of need 5 pints to get going, and kids are like, "Oh, I'll go do karaoke sober. It's fine."
Yeah. By the way, can I just say on that front, I'm always up for karaoke with alcohol or with no alcohol. I am totally fine either way. I just think that the room, there is a definite buzz if people are drinking. But yeah. But I would do it. I would do it either way. It's fine.
So we've done karaoke together, and as you know, I needed a couple of pints before I was even getting anywhere near the microphone.
There we go.
But we're seeing that pattern. Younger people are more keen to do those. I've said in inverted commas, embarrassing activities with no need for it. So combined with that, and combined with the fact that actually alcohol isn't particularly cheap, and import duties are going up on it all the time. We're seeing a lot of these manufacturers and holding companies that own lots of manufacturers really struggling. So looking at whiskey, champagne, cognac brands are really struggling. As per usual, this comes with a caveat of the really, really luxury brands are fine, because the people that buy the really luxury brands are still buying the really luxury brands. But that kind of middle ground between kind of supermarket level and your kind of Cristal level champagne, so the middle bit between those two are kind of struggling. I think, like I said, it's interesting to see it's a continuation of a pattern we've seen. We've seen it in different industries as well, where that sort of middle ground is struggling because people are choosing more carefully where to spend their money.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how other retailers struggle. The one you've picked out in Watson's Daily is Majestic Wines, which I think is a really good example to pick out, because I don't think enough people use them anyway, or appreciate the level of service you get and the level of expertise you get. So I feel like if people are not going out to buy large quantities of wine for a do, they might not use Majestic. They may then start struggling. And it kind of brings you back to that point of, well, what can these companies do differently? And what we've kind of talked about with other industries when we've talked about this is, well, they probably need to find something slightly different to do. So that brought us on to that conversation. What new drink could these guys do? Because obviously we've seen drinks kind of come in phases, haven't we? We've seen Alco Pops, kind of late 90s, early noughties. We've seen like fruity ciders, we've seen craft ales, that sort of thing. Gin had a massive thing 10 years ago that seems to still be going. It's kind of, we've had that conversation of, well, what product can they kind of get behind to try and increase sales? And I'm going to be honest, I couldn't think of anything, could I? But I feel like there needs to be some change of direction, because otherwise I can't see this slump being short term. I think particularly while tariffs are going up on things, while import duties are going up, and while people are struggling financially a little bit, I can't see people spending more and more money on spirits and on kind of mid-range wine. They're going to go for the thing that's more affordable at the supermarket, I think. So I can't really see this pattern reversing itself for a while. So I think the companies need to do something slightly different.
I mean, I definitely think that there needs to be an it drink. I did, mention to you earlier that, back early on in my career, I remember, so we used to have like the CEOs and things of big companies used to come and brief us about their strategies and stuff. And one time, I remember the Diageo guy came in, the CEO of Diageo, and he said, we are going to be pushing cider, right? So I thought I'd just say this by way of illustration, because not everyone will be aware of how this kind of happens. But So they were said, right, we're going to push cider, and at that point in time, cider was seen as a basically something that serious drinkers would drink. It's the sort of thing that you see the drunks at the side of the road would be drinking cider. Some sort of cheap, very strong cider. So there was an image, because I don't think, if you look at it now, you wouldn't really think that. But back then, it was definitely a bit of you wouldn't want to be seen drinking that. But then, they did really well. I think Strongbow and stuff like that, did very well. And I guess then you had more premium kind of Magners, and then you had the fruity Copperbergs and things like that. And they did really well. And we've seen there've been other things. I'd say Aperol Spritz, for instance, a few years ago. Jaeger bombs, of course. Actually, a lot of people say they don't like. I do actually like Jaeger bombs. I enjoy Jaeger bombs. I also like Sambuca as well. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But I think that a lot of these things, they have their day, and I feel that there needs to be another drink. Now, I think a few years ago, and not that long ago, there was potential excitement about seltzers. Now, I always thought seltzers, I always associate that with Alka-Seltzer, which is a headache thing. Yeah. So when people go, I like seltzer, they're like, what? And it's basically a much lighter, I think was wine with sparkling mineral water or something.
It's basically,
like that.
For what I understand, alcoholic mineral water, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
How I haven't had one before. They kind of taste like fizzy water with something in them.
Yeah, and I think that sounds like it should do well, because it first of all, it plugs into the wellness, the theme of wellness, younger people drinking less alcohol. And the other thing as well, it won't attract the duties that stronger alcohol is doing now, because obviously they brought in those rules about basing taxes on the percentage of alcohol in. So if it's incredibly low, then that's really good for that reason, which means they can sell higher volume but at a lower price.
Yeah.
So
that maybe puts the impetus on them to import it pre-mixed, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Because you think about what Pernod Ricard and Diageo do, a lot of their stuff is neat spirits. So it almost puts the impetus on bringing in something that's pre-mixed to bring that volume down, the ABV down.
Yeah. So, I think that maybe that's something. I mean, I actually know a few people at both of those companies, and I haven't been able to ask them, but not yet, because I only saw this morning. I think that something needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly, because at the moment it seems to be sliding into oblivion. And probably what that means is you'll get Diageo slimming down the brands. They'll be reshuffling at Pernod Ricard, Diageo, and AB InBev and all the rest of them, and they'll shuffle around their brand portfolios. But I think there needs to be an it drink.
Yeah. The interesting thing with those kind of it drinks is most of them have been kind of reinventions of something else, haven't they? Like you said, cider's a good example, because we had that kind of thing where cider was very alcoholic, normally kind of scrumpy and quite chewy, and what they did was make it something quite light and fruity. And Aperol Spritz isn't that far off being a Campari and soda. If you look at it realistically, it's not that far off. All they did was take something that was drunk quite heavily kind of 30 40 years ago and go, what can we do different with that? So
and get your marketing team behind it, basically.
Basically, yeah. How do you take something that, the only person I ever saw drinking Campari and soda was someone my grandmother's age.
Yeah,
but
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But then they put Aperol Spritz in this lovely glass, loads of ice, fruity top, and make it look really nice. Yeah, so I think you just need something like that. Take something that was popular in the past and rebrand it.
You need to have a drink that looks good on the gram, right? I mean, that's what you need.
Exactly.
Something something colourful that you can hold up to the light and is a nice colour or something.
Yeah.
Ideally, I mean, I don't know, if you want to appeal to a wider audience, probably ideally not with loads of weird bits and stuff floating in it, but I don't know. Oh, by the way, this is what I would like. By the way, is there's this mixer in France called Picon, and I'm only mentioning that because this is a little bit of a tiny anecdote for you, so it won't take long. So a long time ago, I used to do a lot of cycling, right? And I used to do a lot of cycling trading in the Pyrenees and the Alps in France. And anyway, one time we went over there, and there were a load of French guys. So we all knew each other. They worked for Pernod Ricard. And one of them, I went, we went to this bar, and one of them said, "I'd like to have a Picon beer." Right, and I thought, what's that? But I thought, I'll have one of those because this is a French guy. He's French. We're in France. He works for an alcohol company. He knows what he's talking about. So I had one as well, and it was superb. And basically, it's a bit like, it's a mixer. It's kind of Pimsy. It's not Pims, but it's sort of like Pims. It's orange based. I think it's from North Africa originally. And what you do is you pour some in, and then you pour beer on the top of it, and it gives it a sort of fruity taste. It's really, really nice. I've not seen anyone have it here, and it is superb stuff. And actually, even in France, if you go to, I think especially in northern France, if you say you can have a Picon beer, they'll look at you and they'll think you're weird. So it's so even then it's got a bit of kind of coolness. So that would be if anyone, I would like that. I think that would be good. We should have some Picon beer in the UK. But that's my own sort of personal.
That sort of thing would be a good shout, though, wouldn't it? Something that people can have that flavours a lager or something to make it nicer. We're probably that is kind of reinventing the lager, isn't it? To a certain extent.
I mean, you have it in lager, but it does go well with things like Hoegaarden and stuff as well. Yeah. But obviously that would be a potent mix with a bit of Hoegaarden. But anyway,
it nullifies the low alcohol conversation, doesn't it?
So we're going the other way. We're going the other way now. But anyway, I think that we need another drink. My suggestion is Picon beer. Anyway, Anyway, right. So we'll have to, I guess, go for my topic today.
Yeah, if you could try and do this without talking about either Trump or Musk, that would be good.
Yeah. Okay then. Well, we'll stop the podcast here then. No. So anyway, I'm going to have to mention him. But it's Musk. So it's anyway. So this is all about X. The story is from the FT. Elon Musk's X to offer investment and trading in super app push. Now, this story is about how. So we know from the past that Elon Musk has designs on making a super app. Now, in China, there is a super app called WeChat, and the reason why it's called a super app because there are so many things to it. So it's kind of like you use it to pay for things, you use it as your social media, you use it for absolutely everything, hence super app. And it's like almost like a walled garden, if you like. And within this walled garden, you have lots of different services. Now, Musk has been very keen for X to become the sort of America's answer to China's WeChat. Yeah. So I think this sounds like it would be a good idea. Clearly, it works in China, but so the argument here is you can trade shares, and you'll be able to trade shares on X. But I think that's going to potentially be difficult because it's not China. I think that. There may be, maybe in America it might be easier because the Trump. There we go. I mentioned it. The Trump administration is very seems to be more flexible, more willing to overlook things like competition and ethics and stuff like that. And so just those little things.
Things like ethics, don't worry about them.
Yeah, and sort of dodgy finance and really minor things. And I think that so I think that maybe there's a bit more chance that you could have it in America, but is it going to catch on worldwide though? That's my problem. I kind of think that it will be difficult because there will be privacy concerns, there will be trust issues, there will definitely be trust issues given the way Musk has evolved over the course of this year. And so I think that although it sounds like a good idea, I think that the practicality of bringing it in would be quite difficult. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think even a couple of years ago, even just pre-Musk, I think that Twitter being that app would have been a really viable thing. But my problem with it is the same as yours here. I think the level of trust in X as a platform is really low at the moment. I think, and it's almost sort of got this perception of not being a safe place to be either for some people. Large portions of the population, I would say, would feel that X is not a safe platform to be on because it's developed this kind of reputation for outspoken, often not very nice things. And whether you then want to put your money and your investments and stuff through that platform, I would say, less likely. But we were talking earlier about kind of other people that could do it. Meta, I think, particularly they went through the WhatsApp route because they've put so much effort recently into like pointing out how secure their end-to-end encryption is, how much you can trust them with your data. I feel like they definitely have a reputation better suited to this sort of thing at the moment. And then the point you made was about Snap, wasn't it? I'll let you explain that because you're doing a better job than me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Snap. I think it's a one-trick pony. I think that their efforts to sell, smart glasses and stuff have been pretty rubbish, and I don't like the fact that Evan Spiegel, the CEO, was very greedy when he floated the company because he basically kept all the voting rights, but still made everyone buy shares that had virtually no voting rights. So he had his cake and ate it in that he floated the company, got loads of money, but he still got control of it. But that being said, I think that the nature of it being one of those things where your messages disappear and they're not held anywhere, I don't know, it maybe feels like that could be an interesting platform to use. But I have to say, I think your idea of Meta, it does make more sense. I think that Meta's way would be more of broader appeal, I think.
I think you have a larger percentage of the population use some variety of Meta app for a start. And I think because of the fact that Facebook particularly has been going for so long without any sort of massive thing like the X, I would say scandal. It's not really a scandal, but the reputation it's got over the last couple of years, I think puts it in a much better place. And because, I mean, there's a bit in the back of my head that says, why on earth have they been consistently telling us how secure WhatsApp is for a while? And part of my brain's going, they must be about to launch something that requires us to trust that app. Because they've made such a big deal, and quite rightly so, of how secure it is. In fact, to back it up. So
I have to say, while you were talking, I mean, I noticed. I'm just trying to think. Is it? Yeah, I've noticed literally in the last month or so, I've never had any messages from WhatsApp itself, and yet I've had a few recently, and one of them was about they're all about security. So, like you say, it does make you think: are they going to announce something on security? Because they keep going on about it. Actually, the other thing as well that occurs to me while you were talking there was, the other thing why it would be good is because they've got Marketplace, haven't they? Already. So there's already like a thing set up on there.
Yeah, they've
So
already Facebook do dating as well, don't they? So that's
yeah,
looking at the super app thing. That's another area of your life, and you've already got shopping,
yeah,
you've already got dating, you've got the social media side
yeah,
of things. A
yeah,
bank or some sort of investment to me feels a natural step from those
yeah,
things, whereas
yeah,
it doesn't from short form messaging and short form content creation, which is what X really is.
yeah,
It feels like X needs to go through more iterations and build some of that trust up before that
yeah,
becomes a natural jump. Whereas for me, it almost feels natural from where Meta's current offering is.
yeah. Yeah, actually, I think that's a very good idea of yours there. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's really good. So I think it sounds, I'd say my conclusion is it does sound like it's a good idea. It does sound like it could be very convenient, but I don't know whether the trust is going to be there. I need to ask someone Chinese, for instance. But I would, it would be really interesting to know, do they trust it? Do they trust WeChat and put everything on WeChat? Because they sort of think, well, the government's got all our information anyway, so this is just another, thing. So they're not so worried about it. Whereas, maybe we are under the impression that this is not the case with us, even though I don't know whether it is or not. But maybe we are more under the impression that we want more privacy. Therefore, we're not going to be so free with our information. But then again, I don't know. A lot of people, especially younger people, tend to be much more willing to share stuff on social media than I would suggest older people, who have a much more of a suspicion of this and getting hacked and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think also it's almost like a weird situation where the younger people are more willing to share stuff, but more aware of what they're sharing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I'll share everything up to this point, and then that's too far. Whereas I think maybe the old generations aren't so aware of what they're sharing, and there's more scared, I think, of being hacked, so they just don't share anything.
Yeah.
But I think it would be really interesting to sit down with a few Chinese people and just say, look, do you put your data on there out of trust or out of reluctance because you know they're getting it anyway? Because like I said, the way things work over there is so different. It'll be interesting to hear whether they actually fully trust that app and upload everything, or whether, like you say, it's because they go, well, they know everything else, they might as well know that too.
Yeah,
because
or they already know it, so
Because if it's the former and they trust it, I certainly go, well, actually, that could work somewhere else. If it's their reluctance thing, then I think you're right. I think people's awareness of being hacked and what they're sharing would then kick in and go, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But so it'd be really interesting to have that conversation with someone that actually interacts with WeChat on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, well, look, I mean, I think we'll bring it to a close there. I mean, it does sound interesting. It does sound convenient, though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
But again, it does sort of necessitate more people being on their phones more of the time. So it's just going to get
until we all have VR glasses, and then
yeah, exactly.
So that just appears, doesn't it? Then you can just do everything through your smart glasses, and
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, well, look, well, thank you very much, Duncan, as always, for your insights, and thank you very much for everyone watching, listening. Thank you for supporting us, and remember, of course, if you want to know all this stuff and where it all comes from, please have a go at signing up for a free trial period, Watson's Daily, and be prepared to be amazed. So anyway, thank you very much indeed. Have a great day. Whatever you're up to, and goodbye from me.
Bye bye. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Bye.